Today, I want to talk about what self-sabotaging is. What even is self-sabotaging? You see, when we're sabotaging, it is part of ourself. It's part of our own identity that is stopping us from moving forward. Why? Because we are creatures of comfort. We enjoy rhythm, we enjoy routine, we enjoy what is comfortable. Even if consciously we don't think in the moment that what we're going through is a state of comfort, it is the familiar, which breeds this level of comfort. And this unconscious part of ourselves wants to stay in this level of comfort. So it tries to pull us back when we're trying to leave this bubble of familiarity, when we're trying to push and start a new habit or create a new state of mind. That's the unfamiliar. There is territory that we're not yet familiar with. So our brain wants to pull us back. And today I want to talk and explain what that is, because to stop the self-sabotage, we have to first understand what self-sabotage is, and then go over the 4 specific ways that we go about self-sabotaging ourselves, and then maybe that you can relate to properly get rid of the self-sabotaging habit that we have. Before we even dive into the 4 specific areas of self-sabotaging, we need to lay a foundation that kind of sets everything up. When we're trying to achieve a goal or achieve a different state of mind, we're always very goal oriented. It is this specific habit that we want to achieve. We want to get very good at doing this one thing. And until we get to this place, everything else is in a state of not winning it. We haven't achieved the end outcome. So we're not winning. We're still in a state of losing. That's how the unconscious mind sees it, at least when we are looking at things as simply a goal to obtain. When we can switch, a very simple switch, when we can go from being goal oriented to process oriented, where now the focus is on how you're doing the thing or who you're becoming in the process of achieving the thing. I'm going to give you 2 quick examples. We have Bob and Dave. Bob is very goal oriented. He's going towards trying to develop his journaling practice. He wants to learn and stay consistent with getting the most he can get out every single day of his journaling practice. And until he's in a place in life where he's succeeding as a result of the journaling practice, everything else is not good enough yet. It's not being recognized as him going along his path. But if we look at Dave, where he's not looking at just the practice of journaling as the one simple goal that he's going after, it is the process of becoming the type of person that's able to achieve those goals. And you can see how this would bleed out into the rest of his life. If he can achieve the journaling practice, if he can become that type of person, then he can also achieve other goals that will glow up his life. It's not so much a difference in the action that's being taken. It's a lot more about the mental game that's being played here. It's a focus every single day, even if there's not these dramatic results being shown, or there is this feeling of inadequacy because you're not feeling like doing the journal, but doing it anyways. The recognition on your part saying, I'm building myself currently up. I'm not just going after the goal of trying to journal every single day. I'm actually building myself up where I can push through these moments of uncomfortability. That will directly translate to when you want to build up your body in the gym, or you want to start this new artistic idea where you push through those moments of uncomfortability because you've already practiced it before. That in itself is like a habit. But that it comes from not being too goal oriented and being more focused on the process, enjoying the process. Now, with that foundation laid, I want to get into the 4 specific principles of self-sabotaging so we can get that sniper point of view and kill off that part of us that's constantly holding us back. The first one is success devaluation. And that looks like, let's say you're starting your journaling practice and you only journaled halfway that morning, or you're not getting out what you expect to be getting out of the journal. You start to devalue the effort that you're putting in. It's not working. It's not doing anything for me. I'm doing something wrong. I'm not doing it good enough. This takes away the spark that you could be getting, the energy that you could be getting from acknowledging the wins and the effort that you're putting into it. For example, I remember many times in the beginning of my journey to learn how to become more of an extroverted person, because naturally I'm much more introverted. When I would go and try to talk to a group of people, the efforts that I would put in, because I wasn't getting these amazing results, the people weren't giving me like smiling and laughing at my jokes. There wasn't an immediate amazing result. I would devalue the effort that I was putting in. The immediate downside of this is I was training my subconscious mind to see my efforts as something that's not valuable, something that I shouldn't be doing. And this immediately would bleed out into the rest of my efforts in the daily life. If you put in your efforts to going to the gym, but it's but your internal talk is it's not good enough. You haven't achieved the body that you want yet. You didn't push yourself hard enough. And you never acknowledge the fact that you did get up out of bed early in the morning. You did head to the gym. If you don't put acknowledge onto that, you don't gain energy from your efforts. You actually are losing energy. And that's the difference between being able to stay on that path going towards your goals and falling off very quickly, is that you fall off because there's a lack of willpower towards doing the thing. And the lack of willpower comes because you're not gaining any energy from the efforts that you're putting in. But when you're putting in the efforts, you're giving yourself that recognition that even if it's just a little bit, you are pushing towards the goal. That builds up that happiness feeling inside of you, builds up that determination that you are on the path. Even if there's small wins, it's something that you can look forward to for the next time to do a little bit better. The next one is overcommitment, a similar branch to devaluing your success. When you're overcommitting, especially you're overcommitting too soon, you are creating the blueprint for burnout. If you're a beginner in anything and you try to overload your plate with mastering everything in a single day, a single week, or even a single month, trying to become a master by doing 10 hours of work, at the end of that month, the end of the week, whatever your work section is, you're going to have less passion towards doing that thing. And you can imagine how when there's not a drive or a passion there, the creativity that's needed to generate ideas or figure out how to overcome obstacles is not going to be there anymore because the burnout is so heavy on you. This balls to the wall method doesn't work when you're in the beginning stages. It works when you've built up your tolerance to the work that's required around a specific skill. And that kind of leads on, and this leads on to the second point of adding too much to your plate, is the way that we think about adding things to our plate. Let me give you an example. Let's say you have an 8-hour workday, and now you want to add on top of that 8 hours, an hour of reading. If you look at the task of like, my 8 hours is hard work, and then I need to add on an additional hour of reading. And in that hour, I'm going to make sure that I take notes, I study, and I get everything I can out of that book. That type of energy, that type of framework that you have towards getting that task is going to start to break you down eventually because you're looking at the task as this hard, challenging thing. Whereas if we look at it like, yeah, I'm just going to add an extra hour of reading to my day. Just simple, relaxing reading. I'm going to absorb the information. I'll take some notes if I have to. It's a similar thought process, but the energies are in a different place. And because the energies are in a different place, over time, it affects you differently. If the energy is looking at the task of reading as something that is hard, something that you have to put effort into over time, every single day, that's the recording that's playing on a loop in your subconscious mind of the reading is a difficult task that I have to get through. The reading is a difficult task I have to get through. After 2-3 weeks, you're like, I don't want to do this difficult task. But if the loop that's playing on in the back of your mind is this is a relaxing thing that I get to do. It's a relaxing habit that allows me to gain information. If that's the loop that plays on in your head, it's not going to break you down. In fact, because you're relaxing, because you believe you're relaxing, you're now gaining energy from a habit that before would be sucking energy out of you. It just is a change and shift in how you look at things and the energy that you put towards these different outcomes. That moves us on to number 3. And number 3 is a big one. It is procrastinated learning. And I want to change your definition of learning because the way that we're taught in schools and the way that the world is built is that we believe that learning is absorbing information. But learning is actually absorbing information and then having a behavioral or action change. When you're able to change the fundamental way that you think or you change the actions you take in the world, that's when you've actually learned something. If you absorb a piece of information, but there's no change in the way you think or in the way that you act, you haven't learned anything. You've just passively taken in information. And this is what a lot of us go about doing. We read books, we listen to podcasts, we watch videos on YouTube, and we absorb all of this information, yet there's no real world application of this information. And it's simply a way of avoiding the work that we have to put in to make that change. Because again, to make that change, we have to pull away from the familiar zone, from the comfortability place that we're used to being in. And our brain doesn't want to do that. So it would rather distract us with this fake learning, with learning where we're absorbing information but not taking any action. The next time that you go out and you're going to read a book or you're going to listen to a podcast, make sure that at the end of your learning session, you're setting out on a way that you can change your behavior, change the way you act, so you can make sure you've actually learned something from the time that you've put in. Because you can see how this can lead to a negative spiral loop, where you're putting in all of these hours, all of this time towards learning something, and after weeks of trying to develop a skill, nothing's changed because obviously no action has been taken. And it's many times these simple and obvious things that elude us because the brain is covering our mind with fog, our eyes with fog towards the real answer. Once we remove the fog and we see, of course, just by passively consuming information is not going to change anything in my life. I have to take action towards this passive information for a change to really be made. And now, number four, the last point that I want to touch on is toxic independence. When you're on that path and you don't reach out for help, whether it's people that have achieved the specific thing that you're looking to achieve, or if it's just going online and doing the actual learning, where you're just kind of bulldozing through the problem, trying to figure out by yourself. Essentially, this is a main problem with the ego, thinking that lone wolf stereotypical mindset where I can do all of this by myself. Eventually, if you get no help from anybody and your head's in the ground, you're moving forward, lone wolf, you're going to look up and you're not going to know where you are. You're going to be very far away from the original goal that you wanted, especially because you're going to be all there by yourself because you didn't reach out for that help. And this is very simple. The process of overcoming this toxic independence is very simple to overcome. It's simply by noticing that feeling. When you're in that process of trying to decide which step you're supposed to be taking next, should I go left or should I go right? Should I pick this decision in my artistic abilities? Should I choose this business decision? You're not sure where you should go, and you have the thought of asking for help, and then there is that restriction, the constriction of I don't need to, I can do this by myself. Feel that feeling, because that feeling is part of you, that feeling of I should do this by myself, and learn to let it go, because you will get so much more out of your journey when you can let go of that ego part of yourself and be more open. It's the ego's fear of looking foolish or asking the dumb question that stops us from reaching out for help. But adopt the idea for a moment that in order to get successful, you might have to look a little foolish. You might have to ask those obvious questions in order to get to the next step. And I promise you that once you get to that next step, once you've made the leap, you'll look back and thank yourself at the fact that you were able to ask those silly questions, the questions that look so obvious and gave you the obvious answers, but you still had to hear them, or that you were failing and stumbling and looking silly to those around you. You'll thank yourself when you get to the other side. But if you don't go through that process, you don't adopt that idea and you just barrel through and you raise your head in 5 years and you're wondering where you are, and you're all alone, you're going to kick yourself in the butt because you're going to wish you would have let the ego down. You would have let go of that ego, because it's us that holds on to the ego. It's not the other way around. When you let go of that ego and you just allow yourself to be open to the criticism, open to the silliness, that all of that success will come. I truly hope one of these points will really hit deep and shift the way that you live your life. And I'll see you guys in the next one.